Okay, hey guys, it's January 2nd, and here's where I'm at. I took the water effect I made with the gel acrylic medium and cut it to shape and used more of the gel medium as a glue to glue it to the, conduit there, or the, culvert. And I'm going to let that sit for a couple hours, and then I'm going to get back to it. I'm just using freehand. I didn't feel like setting up my camera mount. And here is where the pond is at. Where are we? I just threw random debris in there, some branches, 50-gallon drum I rusted up, um, a crate, just some branches and stones, and I used some moss. I think they're too green. I might take my airbrush and dull them down a bit. I used AK's Moss Effects. Um, yeah, I'm going to probably pour the resin tomorrow. It's going to take 2 or 3 pours at least, because I use Envirotex Light and it's not deep pour, so I don't like pouring anything more than 1/4 of an inch at a time. So yeah, we'll be back when I start pouring the resin. See you guys. Hey guys, welcome to part 8 of this. Oh, sorry, my head keeps getting in the way. Welcome to part 8 of this Tamiya Brummbar build. It's time for resin. I'm going to start pouring the pond tonight. It's Saturday, January 6th. But before I do that, I want to talk about resin for a minute. Clear resin. There's different kinds. There's deep pour resin, which a lot of crafters, woodworkers who do a lot of wood turning use. And there's also the stuff I use. I like Envirotex Light. It's a coating resin. There's different kinds of coating resins. Some of them get really, really hot when they cure. So just be mindful of the kind of resin that you're using. Envirotex Light is really good, and so is Easy Pour. You can get that at Michael's. With coating resin, you don't want to pour it too thick, because if you do, you can have a lot of problems. You can get a lot of air bubbles, you can get air pockets, and the worst thing is it can get really, really hot and even start to smoke, which isn't a good thing. So again, just be mindful of the kind of resin that you're using. Read all the instructions, read the precautions, and you'll be fine. If you're experienced with resin, or you've never used resin before but want to, I highly recommend that you invest in some silicone pouring cups. I got this set off Amazon a couple of weeks ago, and I got 400 mil, excuse me, 3-ounce cups. I got 4 of these mini cups. I got 4 silicone mixing sticks. A tip: if you're going to be mixing resin, don't use anything made out of wood, because it's porous and it'll create a lot of air bubbles. I got this, what is this? 250 ml cup and a bunch of finger condoms. Yeah. The set cost me $12. Great investment. And the great thing about silicone is resin won't stick to it when it's cured. So you can just peel the resin right out. They're easy to clean, and because they're flexible, you can get a really good fine pour, very controlled pour of your resin if you're pouring into a confined area or whatever. So yeah, take a look at those. So I'll be back. I'm going to mix the resin up, and I'll have the base here. Okay, I'm back. Resin is mixed. I tinted it with some burnt umber Amsterdam ink. When you can use acrylic paint, and there's specific powders that you can get, and other kinds of inks that are made specifically for resin. I threw in some little leaves and some just little debris. Be very careful when you're tinting your resin. One drop too many, it's way too dark. And I wanted a kind of murky look to it, so especially the bottom layer. And I just start at one end and just pour. It'll self-level. Just pour it slow. It's not a race. Because the bottom of that pond isn't even, so it's going to fill quicker in some areas and not in others. Now, some resins you measure by weight and some by volume. Envirotex Light is by volume. If you're not perfect on your mix, it's not going to really make much of a difference. If you have too much hardener, it'll just cure quicker. If you don't have enough, it'll take longer. So there we go. That's the first pour. So I'll be back with the second pour. I'm going to let this cure overnight, at least 24 hours. Probably be late tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night. I have a visitation to go to tomorrow afternoon. An uncle of mine passed away. I'm not looking for sympathy. He was 99. He had a good life, and he'd been ill for a while. Interestingly enough, it was his sons, my cousins Dave and Mark, who got me into modeling when I was a kid. They're a few years older than I am. And I was about 7 or 8 when I first really started taking interest in what they were building. They did NASCAR kits, funny cars, dragsters, that kind of thing. And I started taking interest in it. And I think the first kit I ever built was a NASCAR kit, and I think they may have given it to me. So you have them to thank for this. And also my uncle was a veteran, Royal Canadian Air Force. He's my mother's brother-in-law. He's my Aunt Teresa's husband. He, along with my mother's brother, my other Uncle Frank, were both crewmen in Lancasters. Not sure if they were part of the same crew. Nobody can really remember. But I know they both flew like 20 missions across Europe, reconnaissance, and probably some bombing raids. One of them was a navigator. I can't remember which one. So yeah, Uncle Frank, rest in peace, and thank you for your service. I live about 20 minutes from the Canadian Warplane Heritage Museum at John C. Munro Airport down in Mount Hope, which houses the only other airworthy Lancaster in the world, the other one being over in England. I've seen that beautiful beast fly countless times over the years, and you never get sick of it. Every time I see it, I just am in awe, even if it's just a speck on the horizon. And I always try to imagine what an entire sky full of those look like going on a raid. I've been in the museum probably half a dozen times over the years. If I remember, I'll put up a couple of pictures from the last time I was there in 2018. Seeing it up close and personal is just, you're speechless. It's such a beautiful, beautiful aircraft. And, trying to imagine young men and, their crews flying over Europe and not knowing if they were going to make it back. So if you're ever in the area, that museum is well worth a visit. They got a lot of cool aircraft. They've got a B-25 Mitchell there. They've got a Spitfire, a replica Hurricane. They've got, the Dauntless Avenger. Am I right with that? Anybody out there who knows more about aircraft, correct me if I'm wrong on that. They got an F-100 Voodoo. I think that's what it is. They've got some really cool biplanes. They've got a whole bunch of aircraft out there. It's really, really nice airport to visit, or museum to visit at the airport. And they got a lot of great history on the Lancaster and all the aircraft that are there. A lot of great displays. And yeah, check it out if you're ever around. So I'll be back tomorrow with the next pour. Thanks, guys. Okay, guys, I'm back. It's Monday, January 8th. It took almost 36 hours for this resin to cure completely. The resin's old. It's about 4 years old. I got to get some new stuff, but it'll work for this. It'll just take a long time to cure. So I'm ready for the second pour, and I mixed about half as much as I did from the first pour. You can see where the water comes out of the culvert. I cut it a bit too short because I want just the resin to go just to the edge where I cut it. So the resin's all mixed up, a little bit of ink and a bit more debris. So let's go. Oh, one thing I got a brilliant tip from my dear friend Greg Riley about adding like an oil stain or a fuel stain coming out of the drum. So what I did this off camera not long after I filmed the previous part. is I mixed up some oxide black and burnt umber inks and used a toothpick and put it in a drop at a time and stirred it all around. It looked great until it dried. It kind of all rose to the surface. Looks like shit, but it might be okay once I pour more resin on it. So we'll see. We'll see how it works. I didn't put as much ink in it this time. I want it to be murky, but not as murky as the resin underneath it. Again, this resin will self-level, so I'm not too worried about it right now. Okay. Another thing I did about a week ago is the Sherman turret. I gave it a couple of washes of Viejo rust. I think it looks all right. I might do a bit more with a bit more darker rust, but yeah, I think it came out all right. So I'll be back for the next resin pour, which hopefully will be tomorrow. Okay, take it easy, guys. Okay, guys, it's Saturday, January 13th, and the water effects are all done. You can see that. So after I poured the second layer of resin, I decided to do the oil slick, fuel slick one more time. I realized what I did wrong the first time. When I put the ink in, I just let it cure along with the resin. What happened is it rose to the top of the layer and then dried, and it looked like shit. So after I poured the second layer, I let it sit for about 20 minutes. Then I took acrylic ink and put a few drops in with a toothpick that I coated with acrylic varnish first, and swirled it around. Then I let it sit for about 20 minutes. I went back, swirled it around a little bit more, and I did that every 20 minutes, half hour, until the resin started to cure. You get to a point where the resin is really, really thick before it starts to fully cure. You have to be very careful, because if you wait too long and you go in and you try to move the ink or whatever around, it might not self-level. So you have to be careful. So I did that and it worked. It looks really good, I think. You can see that. I blended in the water coming out of the culvert with more acrylic gel. I actually filmed myself doing that for you guys. I'll put that up after this. What else? Oh, how I extended it, because I don't know if you remember, I cut this too short by about 2.5 mil. So I was thinking of a way to extend it. And I thought, well, maybe glue a piece of plastic onto the back of this. No, that'll be too thick. So then I got an aha moment. Cling wrap, saran wrap. So I cut a piece out, glued it onto the back of this with the gel medium, let it dry, and then I cut a piece of clear plastic, glued it to the saran wrap that was down at the bottom of the, down here, let that dry, trimmed it all up, and then I just coated it with acrylic gel. And it looks really, really good. It came out pretty good. It's not perfect, but it doesn't matter to me. And then when all this acrylic gel was dry, I started going with some Mod Podge and just texturing the top of the water, giving it little ripples and whatever. I'm not sure if I'm going to do the whole top or not. So I'm going to do a demo on how I did the oil slick. I'm going to do it after this. I know what I'm going to do, because I had a couple of people ask me. I posted pictures of that in a couple of groups on Facebook, and I had a couple of people ask, if I was going to do a little demo how-to or whatever. So how I did the water effect is I took a piece of clear plastic and gel medium. Just took a brush, I'll use this one, and just brushed it on. Now, a lot of people that I've seen do this on YouTube do it right on tile or glass or whatever, or right on the plastic. And then when it's dried and how they like it, they peel it off. I like to leave it on the plastic because it gives it some rigidity. So you just keep doing this. Just texturing it. Do light layers. You don't want to go too thick for your first couple. And that's it. And you just let it dry. And then you can add on to it. You can tint it with acrylic inks or paint or whatever. And it's that simple. So yeah, you can get really creative because this gel is amazing. It doesn't shrink. You can even go on a bit thicker than that if you want. That's all there is to that. Boom, done. I thought it was a lot easier than I thought it would be. So yeah, that's it for that. So after this, I'm going to put on the video of how I blended in the water effect with the pond. I cut the audio out because, like a dummy, I keep forgetting to put my phone on airplane mode. So as I was doing it, my phone rang twice. So I'm going to cut the audio out and just put a little bit of music in. It's only about 3 minutes long or whatever. So we'll be back. Thanks, guys. Okay, guys, this is the second time I'm filming this part. The first time, Riley started barking like a maniac at something outside. So, anyway, the resin's been sitting for about 20 minutes or so in this 2-ounce portion cup. I'm not sure how well this is going to work. There's a shitload of air bubbles in this because the resin's old. I didn't bother getting any new resin yet. So all I did is I took a toothpick and I mixed up a bit of ink in this little 1-ounce portion cup and just put it in and mixed it around. like some kind of an oil slick or fuel leak or whatever. I'm going to let that sit for about a half an hour, 20 minutes. And I'll come back and I'll do it again. See you in a bit. Okay guys, it's been about a half an hour. The resin's already starting to thicken up. I added another couple of drops of oxide black ink. So I just move it around. Yeah, it's already starting to get set really quick. That's all I do. So I'm going to come back in a couple hours after this is done. You don't need to see me coming back every half an hour to do the same thing. So I'll be back in a couple hours, guys. The Mod Podge. I forgot to show you how I textured the top of the pond. Just regular gloss Mod Podge. And I just went in with a brush and just kind of did little waves and all kinds of stuff. And this stuff is really, really good for, you can do all kinds of crazy water effects. Again, there's a lot of great videos on YouTube that explain things a lot better than I do. But yeah, you can do all kinds of little currents and waves and ripples and all kinds of stuff. You can put it on as thin or as thick as you want, depending on the kind of effect you're looking for. Oops. It's pretty forgiving. If you screw up, just get a damp brush and you can clean it up, no problem. It dries fairly quick too, so that's all you do. And it'll self-level too, so, or not self-level, but it'll, what's the word? I don't know. Kind of self-level, but it'll leave nice ripples and stuff in it. So, yeah, so I'll finish the rest of this, and I'll be back. Okay, guys, it's almost 2 hours later. This resin started to cure a lot quicker than I thought. When it gets to the point where the resin is about that thick, oh, you can see that, I wouldn't touch it anymore. It still self-levels, but when it gets to this point, it'll cure in probably another half an hour. So you don't want to go messing with it, because if you keep messing with it, you start pulling it out, the toothpick or whatever you use to stir the oil slick, it might not self-level. So when it gets to that point, enough is enough. That's good enough. As you can see, the oil slick is in there. It's not rising to the top. So at this point, I'd say it's ready to just let sit and cure. So if you can see that, I textured the rest of the top of the pond. It looks all right. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. I might go back in with a bit more Mod Podge and touch up a couple of areas, or just leave it the way it is. It dried pretty quick. It was probably dried in about 20 minutes. Anyway, that's the end of this video. I want to thank all my subscribers, my old ones and new ones. And thanks for all the comments. You guys are awesome. Not sure when I'll be back with part 9, because I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do next. So, hi Riley. You were asleep like 5 seconds ago. Yeah, so I'll be back with part 9 whenever. I'm not sure. So you guys take care, and we'll see you soon.